Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cookbook. I am so crazy excited about my guest today. I have a few favorite people. Well, this is one of my favoriteest people in the world. She's my astrologer. She's also a really good friend, and she's brilliant, and she just does all of these really cool, amazing things. So I'm going to read her bio and bring her on. Can't wait for you guys to meet her. This is going to be off the hook. Okay. So Kim Woods, award-winning business strategist, master astrologer, best-selling author, the trusted authority for the new era. And this shit is going to blow your mind. Anyway, combines astrology, ancient feminine wisdom, and her 25 plus years of C-suite experience to help you become rich and powerful, make big impact, and leave your legacy. As JP Morgan says, millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. That's why I'm using it. Kim uses the stars and strategy to clear your success pathway so you live your soul mission. Kim has been named one of the top female entrepreneurs disrupting the business world by Entrepreneur magazine for her revolutionary Do You Know, Like, and Trust Yourself, and that is registered, method. Kim's also been featured in Forbes, Inc., ABC, CBS, NBC, USA Today, AP, Reader's Digest, Miami and Boston Herald, Market Watch, and Digital Journal for her intuitive approach to life and business. You can listen to her podcast, Your Star Path to Success. We're going to put all this stuff in the show notes. She is just phenomenal. We're also going to put a link so you could take her Star Map signature quiz to see how you're living your soul mission. I'm a loving alchemist, just going to throw that out there. And she's had speaking events, Remove Your Blocks to the Money in the New Era, Astrology for the New Era of Feminine Leadership, Stars and Signatures plus Strategy equals Success. So without further ado, so excited, let's meet Kim. Hi.
Hi, Iris. How are you?
I'm amazing now that you're here. I mean, I've been looking forward to this all day actually probably all week because Mercury's been kicking my ass this retrograde. And you might have felt me go Kim, what the fuck? Over the weekend, probably a few times. Because it's just been crazy. My text messages change when I hit send. Just really weird, crazy stuff.
Yeah. So yes. I'm just going to say yes. Yes. Weird, crazy stuff. Right. So Mercury is maddening when he goes retrograde. The good news is he's only going to do it for 3 weeks. The bad news is he does it and he flicks you in the face nonstop. So he's so pesky about it. He's just super pesky about it. And there are certain times with certain retrogrades with him that is going to affect you more. And I do have your stars right here, if you don't mind me just giving a little insight as to what's going on. He's actually opposing your sun. So it's really affecting you, and it's affecting you at work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
So when is he going to stop being an ass to me? Because this is just
you only have one more week to go, just one more week. But he's getting you ready because, when we're, live with people, it's going to be, they're going to be dealing with the Mars retrograde. And then there's a Venus retrograde coming. And then there's another Mercury retrograde. So this is why I did a special podcast episode, because we have 6 months of nonstop retrogrades from the end of November 25th, 2024, until April 12th, 2025, nonstop. And they're personal.
Oh my God. Okay.
That's okay, because this is getting us, these retrogrades are getting us ready for the big, huge, massive wake up call on March 30th, 2025. And then literally Q2, there's so much big, massive star activity. We've never lived in it before. This is uncharted territory, and we can be frustrated with these retrogrades, or we can really use them to galvanize our, like we were talking about your website refinement. We're talking about messaging with all my clients. We're talking about, value and money clearing their blocks. And so literally I'm spending all of my time, not only setting strategy with my clients, but I'm also clearing all the things that we can clear, and whatever's coming up for you, those retrogrades bring it up so that we can clear it.
Right. Well, and it's funny because usually I do use retrograde, and for whatever reason, like this one just like fell through the cracks, and it's like, stop. Like I feel like I have Mercury's teeth marks on my ass right now. That's
do have Mercury's teeth marks on your ass right now. You do.
Very, very kind Mercury. So, so I know that in my intro of Kim, I said that she was a master astrologer. She literally walks among the stars. Like there's such cool stuff. But before we get into all of that, what was your journey like? How did you go from what you were doing, and what were you doing before, and how did you get into astrology? I know how, but my audience doesn't. So, and it's such a cool
it's a crazy, as every, like I'm a strategist, right? So wouldn't I love to have that story, Iris, be like, oh my God, then I did this, and I had a massive epiphany, and then it was amazing, and then I did that. That's not my story. My story is so amazingly like, I mean, it makes me able to help my clients under any circumstance, but it was not fun to go through. But again, we all have our own experience, so we can help people, more impactfully. And so for me, my spiritual journey was my whole life, but yet it really didn't kick off. I was like most people, ignoring my intuition, ignoring like, those nudges or whatever, and just pursuing success. I was in the corporate world. I worked for Oracle. I was doing consulting. I grew up in finance. I was an accountant there for a while. I don't know if you knew that. That's a little known fact. But I started implementing financial systems, and I took over a practice. And I have to tell you, I was traveling. I loved my clients. I got to negotiate. I got to sell. I loved my people. I had the best practice. I was massively successful, like striving that corporate ladder. And I thought it was like, this is what I've worked for, right? And then, like a lot of people do, I got pregnant with my first child. I was going to go back to work, no problem. Like we had that all sorted. And then he had massive issues. And so because of that, all of a sudden my soul was like screaming at me, like, Kim, you got to stop. Kim, you got to stop. Probably I'd had other markers, but ignored them, right? Like, just like, oh, I'm smarter than my soul. Like, no big deal. And I literally left the job, left everything. And I was he was like my project, and we rewired his brain, and it took 5 long years. And that's why my do you know, like, and trust yourself method, because I had to defy the doctors. I had to defy like all the education, everything. And I really had to know what I was doing to be able to identify who to bring in, ask for help, and figure out like the Rubik's Cube of healers and therapists and advocates and acupuncture and Western and Eastern, and put it all together. And I had to trust myself. Literally, when the doctor said he wouldn't throw and catch a ball, he wouldn't have a normal social life, he wouldn't have a sense of humor. I mean, all these things. He wouldn't be able to walk up the stairs naturally because he couldn't move both feet. And I was like, absolutely not. This is not happening. And so we literally, he's just graduated from college. His girlfriend's right here. Like he has great sense of humor. He's really successful from a personality perspective, and he can think strategically. He's a great athlete. I mean, so all those things were transformative by doing the Eastern methods with the Western practice, like marrying them both together. And once I did that, I was like, I need to start doing this like in life, right? So then I started doing in life, and my business was very traditional. And then my life was over here, and I was like skiing on path, and they were doing this. Like completely, like there's spirituality over there, only my personal life. There's business. And so I finally got up the nerve, because it was really all about me coming out of the spiritual closet, finally got up the nerve to say yes to it. I mean, my soul's like, and I did that. And then once I did, it just like the business has boomed ever since. It's crazy.
Well, it's not crazy. It was meant to be. I mean, that's,
meant to be, yeah.
Which is what I'm learning, so, full transparency, Kim and I work together. I don't do anything without, putting it before her first. Like, is this a good move? And it's not that I don't trust myself. I do, but I'm still kind of young at this, and so there are just some things that if I'm not sure, I reach out to you. But what I find, first off, the fact that you worked at Oracle kind of makes me giggle a little because it's Oracle.
I know, right? Isn't that so amazing? And I always knew that, like, because I grew up with astrology, so I always knew that Oracle. I always knew what it meant, and for me, I was like, this is hilarious.
Right. It's like I hear that and I giggle because I know what you do, and what you do. It gives people insight that they wouldn't otherwise have, and that's in business and in life. But in business, it's pretty cool. So I had the absolute honor and privilege to share the Airbnb with you and Krista, and it was so funny because I'm on the plane and I flew first class because I was like, I'm just going to go all out for this Dames event, and I'm going to do all the bougie stuff, which I'm bougie anyway. But and I was just like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be with Krista, and it's going to be, the energy was just going to be like insane. And so many things happened that were so perfect. Like the one, I'm not going to talk about that, but the one, thing that I had that I was like, please, please, please let him ask me, and you did. So that was really awesome. But just being in your energy, you have such this like loving, warm, I almost want to say mom energy, but I'm older than you, so you can't be my mom. But it's like that like being held energy, and it's amazing. Like you should work with her just because of that, because that gives you so much. It does. It gives you so much like footing and grounding, and really, it's like, oh my God, this hug just made me feel like I can go out and freaking conquer anything and everything. So one of the things that we talked about that I think people need to know about is the 2025 forecast with the new era. There's a lot of shit coming, folks. Whether you believe or not, you're gonna, because it's happening. There's like no, So why don't you talk about that? I know maybe you want to pull a card, whatever you want to do. Like let's do like all the things, because I think there's so many.
Let's do all the magic, right? So because the way I work is it's yes, of course I can walk in the stars, and of course I can tell you what the stars are doing, but I do more than that. So this is why, yes, I'm an astrologer, absolutely, hands down, master astrologer. However, I'm not just going to give you that dopamine hit of saying, oh, there's a huge wake up call on March 30th, right? Like, and there is a huge wake up call on March 30th. It's just happening, right? And our minds can go, oh, that's so great. I know that there's a huge wake up call on March 30th. And I say, so what that you know? Like, that's marginally interesting that you know. It's much more important for me that you actually know what to do with it. So whenever I'm doing podcast interviews or what have you, I want to talk about what that really means. So if I'm going to date myself here, but if anybody remembers like Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, or, being in high school when you had that person that was just a pretty liked Toten, like really liked, being in that vibe of, dude, don't really have to do anything right now. That's literally the planet that has been in that energy of dudeness, of just being able to be in the back of the van, and when you open the door, that all the smoke comes out, and you're just like, hey, what's going on? That energy has been front and center since 2011. That energy. So we haven't been able to figure out what's real and what's not. We haven't known, like what sources to go to. We have had the opportunity to understand and appreciate our intuitive instincts, but we've also had the kick it down the can down the road, because it's not that important going through our minds too. Our minds have been like, yeah, you don't really need to do that now. It's totally fine. All that comes to an end on March 30th. So March 30th, that planet that I just talked about, like the dude, you're so great, no worries right now, kick it down the road, has an abrupt stopping for the next 14 years. And so we're never going to get that energy back in this lifetime. It's going to be totally changed. And it's going to be on the heels of like the hall monitor coming in and making sure we're doing all the right things and following the rules on May 24th. So we've got these two energies, and they meet in the 2026. So we get two energies like, wake up, and you don't have any choice. And then I'm going to make you follow all the rules that you should have been doing for the last 14 years. Where are you now? That's literally what's happening. And understanding it on that level, isn't that so much more pertinent, Iris, to each, like, understand? So then what should I do? Right? Like, and then this is where you're like, taking the quiz really matters, because you're a loving alchemist. So your tips are going to be infinitely different than my tips, because I'm an intuitive visionary. And so your tips are going to be like, are you setting your stage appropriately for the first quarter? And are you, for you in particular, like, are you making sure that your voice is heard? And we're really working on that, because when we do get to that huge wake-up call, I want the loving alchemists to have their own stage, because you can invite people onto your stage beautifully. Mm-hmm. I'm an intuitive visionary. My approach is completely different. I need to make sure that I'm not ideating like a crazy person and coming up with innovations that will be out of date by June, because that's going to be exhausting to me. It's going to waste my time. So for me to be in refinement, winnowing down, clarifying, really putting structure on the things that I know that work, that's my best approach. So doesn't that make much more sense? Like, I can prepare for the wake-up call, because then after the wake-up call, people are going to be able to see you as a loving alchemist on stage. Oh, and I'm going to be able to ideate some real things that are going to be real time. So then people will then start to follow me. So that's the difference between what I do and what most astrologers do.
Wow. And it's just so like when I was talking to Amy, because she's also a loving alchemist.
Yeah.
And, like we were like comparing, oranges to oranges, and we were like just kind of laughing. Right. But, I think that, knowing we get to prepare. But the thing is, you also have to kind of trust in this and believe in this to really know. Right. And I've spoken to some people about it, and I'm like, I'm telling you, this is, what's coming. They're like, yeah, whatever, I believe in God. I believe in, whatever. And it's like, that doesn't matter. Like, none of that, matters, because what the planets are going to do, the planets are going to do. It is what it is. So, so how do we, talk to people who are religious that really that feel almost like it's sacrilegious to talk about this stuff? Like, how do we kind of guide them to don't be afraid, because this, it's better to be prepared than, not.
Well, it's so interesting to me, Iris, is that, like, I grew up Catholic, right? So for me, I can speak to Christianity a lot more easily than I can to Hinduism or Judaism or something like that. But yet the basis of all those religions is love. And the basis of all spirituality is love. So there's such synergy between, in a religion, you're going to go through, whether it's a pastor or a rabbi or, some sort of person that's positioned themselves in the word of God, in whatever that means to them, right? And so what you're doing is, when you're religious, you're receiving the word of God through someone else. Spirituality is simply you're receiving the word of God through you. And you can do both beautifully. You can go to synagogue, you can go to church. I have clients that are Christian. I mean, I use the word God instead of the word universe. They're the same exact thing, right? And there are cosmic energies out there that I know, from a Catholicism perspective, the first popes used astrologers, or they were astrologers. Wow. So when I talk to Christian people, I talk to them about that. The astrology is in the Bible. I wouldn't be surprised if it was in the Torah and the Kabbalah and all the things, because it's such, right? Like Hippocrates and Plato and Galileo and Kepler and Jung. And there's all these, individuals that were either spiritual or medical or scientific or what have you, that relied on astrology. And what ended up happening was our intellect, our logic, and our reasoning wanted to see evidence. We became very evidence-based. a few hundred years ago, right? And so we moved out of that like just believing to believe and having faith. Look what's happening with religion too, right? Like we want to have scientific proof. We want to have the statistics. We want to have the formula. And yet that's for our mind. That's not for our heart and our soul. Our heart and our soul absolutely knows that the astrological implications are true. So Carl Jung is actually, a psychologist, back in the 30s. He came up with a archetypal model that he used to describe people being affected. It follows astrology. He very much was tied to astrology. Myers-Briggs is based on that model. So Myers-Briggs, by transitive property, let's just use science, is actually based on astrology. And over 50 million people have taken that. So if you believe in Myers-Briggs, you believe in the astrological signs. You believe in the zodiac signs. Yeah.
Wow. That's even more. See, and to me, it's like, I have always been drawn to the moon ever since I was little, right? And I remember I would like look at the moon, and for years it was always smiling. It was like, you remember the Jackie Gleason show when the moon was up there and he was
yes.
Smiling. So that's what I would see, because I knew it wasn't made of cheese. Because everybody, when you were young, you're like, the moon is made of cheese.
I know. Where do they come up with that? I don't even.
Where the hell did that? Yeah. I have no idea. So I would always see the Jackie Gleason moon. And then I remember, and this was when I was homeless, I was riding the train one night and I got off and I looked up at the moon and he was like sad. There was no smile on his face. And I was like, what the hell is that? And it like completely like jarred me. I was like, I have no idea what any of this means. So, I continued on with, life or whatever. And now whenever I look at the moon, I don't see a face anymore.
Oh.
Which is I think it's just because I know what it means now, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the moon, so the moon will, this happens with really any energy, right? Like the moon is your heart. The moon is power. The moon is cyclic. The moon is feminine wisdom. The moon is how you pick yourself up when you fall down. The moon is how you take care of yourself. It's nurturing, it's connecting, but massively powerful, right? Massively wise. So depending on what you want to tap into, there's a lot of people who use the moon for manifestation when the new moon is around, right? There's a lot of people who use it to celebrate during the full moon. If we look back to the ancients, they knew the lunar cycles. We didn't have the Gregorian calendar. We had a lunar calendar because that went with the normal, agriculture. It went with the seasons. It just went with the natural flow of life. And so if you think about it, this science evidence-based mentality that we've had has brought us away from what's really natural to us. Earthly, lunar, solar, celestial, just vibrationally like healthy for us with food and whatnot. And so when we say to ourselves, you know what, I have intuition, I am made of stardust, I am connected to the cycles of the earth, how can I not be leaning in, even if it's only with moon cycles or sun cycles or just even seasonal energies? Because when you do, Iris, as you know, you gain resources and you gain information and you gain power that you don't have to pay for, that you can use at any time, and that are like, I call it like my imaginary friends that are on my team, right? Like I have a force, a legion of people energy working for me that makes me have, people ask me all the time, how do you get all the things done that you get done? How do you ideate? Like, how do you know that I had a midnight moonstone on my nightstand? Because I'm tapping in.
Crazy. It's been sitting. So, I have all my crystals, like up here on the thingy, and it's been sitting there forever. And I looked it up last night and it said it had to do with dreams and everything. And I was like, oh, that needs to be on my nightstand. And I took it off and I put it on my damn nightstand. And then you're here today.
And when you and Kofi were, doing your, exactly, I had already logged in. We were testing, volume, and you were like, hey, where's the recorder? I looked around. I have a ton of crystals in my room. And I was like, who wants to come in and talk to Iris? Midnight Moonstone jumped up and I grabbed it and I put it right in front of me.
And folks, this is how it happens. I mean, it's like my wife, who is very Catholic, and who this isn't for her, but she sees it. Like, because she lives with me and she sees this shit all the time. And she's like, you can't make this shit up, because you can't, because it happens. It's like the things happen, and they happen just so beautifully, because it's just like this. It's symbiotic. I don't know what the word is.
Synergistic, maybe synchronous, synergistic.
Yeah, synergistic. It's just and it's just so obvious. Like, the things that are happening. I guess something happened a couple of weeks ago. Oh, I know what it was. You had said, I was listening to one of your recordings that you did in my portal, and it does something about amethyst. And that freaking morning, I have this necklace that has amethyst on it. I was like, man, I haven't worn this in like a year. I'm going to wear it today. And then I listened to your recording, and it says, amethyst, and I'm just like, you cannot make it up. It's just it's real, and when you realize it and you lean into it, I think it's one of the most beautiful things ever. I feel like so blessed and fortunate that I was wise enough to open up to it, and to be open to it, and say, okay, come in and do the thing, because, here I am.
And it's interesting. So I've, hundreds of business leaders. I've worked with hundreds, probably, more than I think I'm almost at 600 people, right? That I've worked with, not just like, hey, I just did a speaking engagement with you. And so there's probably, I don't even know, thousands or tens of thousands would be the number. But when no one's ever said to me, Iris, like, gee, I'm glad I didn't do this sooner. Like, no one ever says that. Everybody, if they say one complaint, it's, why didn't I do this sooner? Like, why didn't I believe? Why didn't I say yes? How did I wait so long to work with you? Like, how did that happen? And honestly, it's always in right timing. Like, whenever I run somebody's star chart and I look at the stars in the sky and I look at their stars, there are at least two or three things that I'm like, oh, this is exactly why they came in now. This is exactly why they said yes. Because honestly, saying yes to me isn't the easiest thing to do. I'm not the one that's going to be like, oh my God, February's so good for love, and this is why it's good for love, and la la la. That's just not who I am. You're going to come in. We're going to align you with your soul mission. When you're aligned with your soul mission, it's the scariest thing you've ever done. So you're going in the right direction. If your pants are scared off your body, that's how you know. People always ask me, how do I know if you're going in the right direction? I'm like, were you scared to death? Like, was it the most terrifying thing you've ever done? If the answer is no, then you're not. Then the answer is no. So that person, whoever is saying, sitting across from me, has to say yes to themselves in a really big way. And it's not saying yes to their mind. It's saying yes to their heart. It's saying yes to their soul. So when I was talking about the soul screaming, that's what happens sometimes with people. Their soul is screaming. Other people, their soul's still whispering. It's just, are you either frustrated or you're fascinated? That's just really the only difference. And I congratulate people when they run a sales call with me, Iris, because when you set up that first strategy call with me, things already start changing in your life. You said it to me too. Everybody says that.
Well, I remember the first, it was like so crazy. You were doing that 3-day intensive thing, and I couldn't make it. I think I made like
the money blocks. Yep.
Right. And so I watched the recording, and it was like 4 days later, I met with a client, and they were like, well, can I just pay 6 months in full? And I was like, yeah. It was just like, that was nuts. And then the best thing, I mean, that was like, one of the best things, and this is where Heather was just like, you can't make this shit up, because I told her, so you and I had a session, and you were like, you need to get more creative, and you need to be in the band. And I was like, I can, and I don't give a shit. I'm going to say this. And I was like, the problem is that where I live, the people that play the kind of music that I like are all trumpers. And I can't, it's got to be no trumpers. And 2 days later, 3 days later, whatever, I get a message from the band that I'm in now, from Lauren, and he says, hey, we're looking for a singer, blah, 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 blah. And the message goes on, and the last thing that he says in giant letters was no Trumpers. And I wake up laughing, and my wife is like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, you cannot make this shit up. And I showed her the message, and she was just like, you can't. She goes, you can't. I'm like, so you see all of this stuff that's happening. Like, it is not in my head. Like, she goes, no. She goes, it's happening. She goes, it's like for her, I think she's very, when she got really pissed at me, I'll tell you why, but she loves Jesus. It's not that she loves Catholicism. It's not that she loves, Christianity, because she says, if somebody asks me what I am, I'm Christian because I believe in Jesus Christ. And, and she prays every night. And I think it's amazing that, she does that. So in a way, this not goes against her, but it's not for her. She's like, it's great for you. You do your thing. I see it all. I'm watching from a distance. I get it, but it's not something that I'm going to, subscribe to. And it's like, okay, whatever. But, I said to her, and I can't remember if we were in Denver when I did. No, it was when I got back from Denver, I think. I don't know. She was pissed because I said to her, if you hadn't been raised the way that you were, if you hadn't, been raised to go to church and to believe in Jesus and to, all of that from a very young age, do you think that would be your belief now? And she got really pissed. She was like, you're challenging my, and I was like, no. I like Judaism, like anything. Hindu, you're raised a certain way. I mean, I was bat mitzvahed when I was 14 years old. I said the prayer over the candles every Friday night. I followed, I was the best Jew you ever saw until I wasn't, right? Then I just stopped believing in God. And then I, got my way back to whatever. But, for me, it's always been this weird thing. Religion has been really weird. When I started leaning into my spirituality, and dare I say my witchdom, everything changed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everything, everything made sense because I've been fighting this my whole life. It's like, I don't want to see things that I don't need to see, it's like, and so I suppressed it. And so I knew it was there, but it wasn't until I leaned into it that everything started making sense around me. People started making sense around me. Why is this person this way? Okay, I get it. Why am I reacting to this person? Okay, I get it. So many more things make sense.
And I like to say it gives you a different purview, right? So when you're not in touch with your intuition, your soul, or spirituality, however you want to say it, that inner voice, the energy of who you are, you can say it all these different ways. When you're not in touch with that, life is this big. Literally, a problem comes to you, and you're you're underneath the problem. It's bigger than you are. When you are in touch with all those things, that you go over the problem and you can see it from a different vantage point. Yeah. And you can say, wow, it's still the same problem, but your perception has changed. Your ability to deal with it has changed. You gain equanimity. Your heart, you can go into the wisdom of it. You might be more responsive instead of reactive. Your soul driving the train helps you to see a longer view and a different perspective. Doesn't mean that person or that situation isn't just as big of a problem. It just means your ability to deal with it is infinitely different. And so just from the very sake of that, you have a whole different appreciation of where you are in your own pathway and what is the better course to go by, right? So I think just that in of itself, just speaking to just intuition in general and spirituality in general, going back to the religious piece, if religion is still serving you and your soul feels alive and your heart feels really open, then religion is right for you. If, however, you've lost your way on that and it doesn't, you said you were a really amazing Jew until you weren't, right? Right. So, and that's beautiful. And we go through seasons of that. Sometimes we come back, sometimes we don't. But if we are understanding and appreciating that there's more to life than what we can see and more to life than what we can actually, have evidence for. Honestly, where we are in the whole evolution of the world is we're never going back to having this massive scientific evidence requirement. That's going to dissipate as the years go on. Things like astrology and palmistry and human design and the Kabbalah and chakra systems and all those things, they're going to become as mainstream as yoga and massage. So when you think about that, you can make the choice of, am I going to let my mind dictate and have to have proof and therefore limit my growth because the only thing the mind can deal with is what it's already experienced. Mm-hmm. It can't actually go into the unknown. It can't actually go into the belief. There's no imagination with your mind. There's no like, sure, I'm going to do this even though I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. That comes from like the soul, that comes from the heart. So it depends on what your personality is. Some people are like, great, I'm going to feel that and I'm going to go. Other people are very logical and they really love and adore their mind. So this is where they need to go through it at their own pace, in their own time. And this is where they're seeking validation. So for me, because I predicted COVID, because I predicted the insurrection, because I predicted the weather patterns of 2022, because I predicted the finance dip in 2023, because I'm just going annually, because I predicted the political changes in 2024, people then start to say, maybe she knows what she's talking about. Maybe there is something to these stars. She told us that they were, I can't tell you how many times people say to me, you told me. I'm like, yes, the stars, I read the stars for you. Whether you choose to listen or not, the stars are still going to do what they're going to do. So we either have a choice of having that purview of like, okay, the stars are here and I can navigate through that and I can use their power and I can really carve my own pathway, or the stars are here and I'm going to be like under the wave and I'm going to be like literally subsumed by them. It's a choice.
100%. 100%. So, well, let's just do a little bit of magic just for fun. Yep. I know I have a couple of people listening to this. Well, actually, let me ask you one question before we get into magic, because the whole entrepreneur journey, this is about entrepreneurship. Coming from where you're coming, what advice do you have for somebody who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur? Because you must have like a completely different than anyone.
Yeah, so it's so interesting. Iris, while you were talking, I just asked the Oracle deck, these are my Oracle cards, I just asked them, what card wants to come to play with Iris right now? You can't, and literally, it's the card of opportunity. What does it say? Opportunities abound, say yes right away. Okay. What I will say, there is a very destabilizing force in 2025. It's very destabilizing. It doesn't feel safe because it's very unknown. We are in uncharted territory. I'm going to say this till I'm blue in the face. What I was saying throughout 2024 is the same thing I was saying in 2019. It's going to be easier to do things this year than it will be next year. And if you think of the difference between 2019 and 2020, you can really appreciate that statement. Sure. I'll say the same thing right now. Here we are at the top of 2025 when this airs. And so we have this whole nother year to go. And I can tell you that it's a very disorienting and destabilizing energy. However, the opportunities are unfathomable. If you're just thinking about entrepreneurship, but you don't know anything about business, you don't have really an idea of what you want to do, you don't have anybody that could give you opportunity, i.e. someone who knows someone, like you're a bookkeeper and you know an attorney, and that attorney is like, I have so many clients that I could give you, you should start your own business. That's a hell to the yes. If, however, you're like, I kind of have an idea that I think I might want to do something with, maybe, I don't know, maybe finance, at least it could be the same person, right? Maybe finance, maybe I'll do something. I do know tax. Do I want to use my audit? I don't know anything about business really. Then that would be you may want to wait till the top of 2026. 2025 would be a really great time for you to gather. It would be to see how things shake out. So if you are really clear about who you are and what your gifts are and how you can serve the world, then that's a yes. And also ask the universe to say, okay, bring me someone or something, a group an offering, a online platform, a audience, speaking engagement, something like that can get me started, that's the dictator of whether it's a yes or a no right now.
Wow. Cool. And I guarantee you nobody has ever given that answer. I love asking that question because everybody has something different, but definitely not like that. So this is going to be really, really different. Okay, let's play a little. What do you want to do?
Yeah. So, okay. Do you want to? Okay, I want to tell you something. So when you were saying when this is going to air, we're going to be, in that second or third week of January, right? Like I can disclose this because that's when people are going to see this. And so I said, do you want me to run your stars? And you said, sure, we can do anything. So I did. So I ran your stars. You have an amazing, it's a 12-year signature. So it only happens once every 12 years. That week or two, it's happening for you. So it's in your work and it's how you communicate. How much have I been talking to you about using your voice, my love?
A lot.
A lot. A lot, a lot. Let's see if there isn't something why am I asking that in the negative? Let's see if there's a way that you can present yourself on stage. Let's do like a mad marketing campaign for this. Let's make sure that you're highlighted somewhere because massive luck. You have massive good luck there. And it's your words.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I told you about the panel I did the other week, and they were all excited about, taking it on the road, and we emailed back and forth. Crickets. I've heard crickets from them. So I was going to send, after this podcast, I was going to send an email and say, what happened to all the excitement, like what's going on? And then it made me think, am I supposed to be on a panel? Or am I supposed to be doing my own thing? Like, I don't know. And the music has been, really, really, the band has just been so much fun. So much fun. So that's been, really cool too. And I had somebody on my podcast. I don't know if we're going to do this or not. Well, they mentioned, I can't even say his name, but they mentioned his name, who he is, who I can't stand. And I don't want it on the air. Like I want to take that part out. Is that censorship, or is that just, I don't want that energy on my thing?
You can do whatever you want. People edit things all the time. Why wouldn't you edit that out? I wouldn't have something, about it. You know exactly what you can do about it. It's not going to be, it's immaterial to the overall message that you want to deliver in that conversation. So, it's not going to really matter, but it matters to you. So this is where being true to you, this is loving alchemist energy, right? Like, it's like, I'm creating my own stage. You can edit whatever you want. That's not censorship.
Okay.
Nope. That's you satisfying yourself.
Good. Because I was talking to Kofi about it beforehand. I'm like, I really want to edit that out.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So interesting. My question to you is, why does it have to be an either or with a panel or your own stage? Why is that an either or?
I guess it doesn't have to be. I guess just in my mind, it was because that was the first panel I was ever on.
Okay. Is it still serving you?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. Then why would you ever say no to it?
Okay.
Yeah. You get to have the shared platform. You have shared audience. You have, shared messaging. While you're listening to other people say things, you can formulate how you want to say. You can juxtapose. People really like the online conversations that others are having. Mm-hmm.
Cool. And speaking of not panels, but duos, you and Miss Krista Grasso, oh my God, that is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That is so powerful. Why don't we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. So when two intuitive visionaries get together, what happens? Well, one of two things either happen. Either Magic. They create so much they don't actually bring something to fruition, but they're just in their own activities, just like making magic, right? Because we're wildly innovative. So intuitive visionary, the name really, what it implies is true. We are going to have original ideas all the time. So our brilliance is going to be like the star of the show. However, both Krista and I happen to be earth sun signs. I'm a Capricorn, she's a Taurus. So when people work with me in my high level group, we do their sun sign, we do their, energetic signature, and it's the combination of the two. The energetic signature is what choices you make and how you come into the world, how do you enter your day, the things like that. Your sun sign is the core of you. When we combine those two, that will give infinitely more information about how that magic can materialize. So Krista and I are wildly practical. So what Iris is referring to is we were on a stage to 120 entrepreneurs, and we had been tasked with doing value add, come together collaboration and deliver something that was going to be impactful. So Krista and I took that seriously. We had a million ideas in our head, but we met 2 different times. One was for 5 hours, one was for 3 hours. And then we each went off and we created things around that. And then we came back together. And so we took it seriously. That was the sun sign, right? But then we were able to just do all the magical things so that we could figure out, like, my methodology and her methodology went like this. My purview and strategic outlook and hers married like this. My ability to do ritual and to clear the pathway and do that, kind of introspective work, and her practical application of it went like this. Yeah.
It was amazing. It was amazing. So who would benefit from that? Like, what kind of groups would benefit from that?
Everyone. Anybody who's, for me, I work with entrepreneurs. Krista will go into corporate. So we now have that broadened audience, right? So I would be speaking to the individuals, like the C-level or the VIP or the directors within an organization. Krista could be speaking to the teams. That's just the way I prefer. I've done the team thing. My work can work that way. I just adore working with the micro and solopreneurs. So for somebody to go to a speaking engagement, they can get something out of my work too. If somebody wants to continue and they're a part of a team, they're most likely going to choose to work with Krista, right? We're both incredibly strategic. We're both very, very innovative. We both are looking at you as the central, energy or core pillar of what work you do. Krista will take that very strategic, executing, operational approach and make sure that you're working at the constructs in your business. I'm going to take that intuitive, strategic leadership approach and ensure you are going in the right direction, that you're attracting the right people, and you're relying on the right resources. So it's very similar. We do share clients, and we are talking about doing more of a cohesive. Yeah, I will never out anybody, Iris.
It's okay.
We're talking about doing a more cohesive offering. And this was our first foray. It's the first time we were ever on stage together. And we have gotten, no lie, every single person who's talked to us since then, we're like at 50 or 60 people. So half the people are like, that was, and I love your term, that was off the hook.
It really was. The whole thing. I was watching there, and and I was taking pictures and doing all that stuff for you guys, but I was just like watching it just in awe, because the way that y'all just ping ponged off each other, and she hit the ops part, you hit the other part, and then it was just like this amazing symbiosis that was happening on stage that was phenomenal. You individually, and I'll talk about this from personal experience. Wow. The way that you use your talents and your gifts to guide people in business is insane. Like, I never, if anybody ever, well, people, if anyone ever, was like, oh yeah, you're going to be working with an astrologer and she's going to help you take your business to the next level, I'd be like, you're out of your freaking mind. But yet here we are. And it's not even just that it's taking it to the next level. It's that the road, the path is just so fun. I can't think of like, for me, this is the most fun thing. Like, every time I see, we have a meeting on the books, I'm like, whoo, yes. I get excited 2 weeks beforehand. It's like, okay, can this week hurry up? Because I want to, do the thing. Because the way that you strategize is intuitively. It's like, what strategy who needs. or who needs what strategy. And
Absolutely.
It's inherent. It's just, and I think that you can't put a price on that.
Thank you. I received that. And what I will say is that I do have all the strategic tools. I've been in the C-suite for 25 years. Like, there isn't a business issue that I haven't faced. I can solve that from a very practical perspective, give you a great tool set for that. However, in this way that I'm working, I let your soul dictate when, how, not necessarily where. Yes, where from a bigger picture. I then go into that combination of intellect and intuition to ensure that pathway is carved out and we're moving at it at the pace that you can integrate. And what I always say, you've heard me say this a million times, Iris, is that it doesn't matter that I know something. It matters that you know something. Mm-hmm. Right. So I know, and I don't want to diss the intuitive space, because it's so necessary and it's so wonderful and it's so magical. But a lot of times the intuitive, him or herself, is looking for validation. And so, they're so gratified when they're like, oh, the midnight moonstone, blah, 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 or whatever it is, like whatever the case may be. I'm like, so what? Like who cares that I know that? It doesn't have any impact. If I know something about you, like, hey, the third week of January is supposed to be really great for you. If I know that, it has no impact on your life at all. That's not going to be helpful at all. So I get no, there's no benefit for me knowing something. I must have you receive that information, integrate it, and execute on it. Because if you don't do those three things, then you're not going to be able to utilize this information. So this is why I'm saying I work so differently than other people that either do oracle or prophetic or channeling or astrology, right? Like anything that's like laying out the future, because I don't care that I know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So why did you
very different? I have no agenda. I literally come into every single session, every podcast. Yeah. How did I come into this podcast? I was like, what would be super beneficial for you, for your client, for your people? Like, what do we want to do today?
And totally open. Everybody who watches knows me. I'm like, wherever this goes, it goes. I mean, that's, so why did you pick the moonstone for me? I
have no idea. So I'm claircognizant, right? So this is where, oh my God, when I first started working with people, Iris, you would have loved it. Cause I mean, so I love humor and whatnot, but like everybody would ask me, well, how did you know that? And literally when you're claircognizant, you don't see anything, you don't hear anything, you don't feel anything, you just know. So it's the hardest, clear, that's how you communicate with your intuition when I say clear, right? So a lot of people are clairvoyant, they see things. A lot of people are clear audio, they hear things, clairsentient, they feel things. So for me, I have no idea. So what ends up happening is I'll just know. And then if I need to have you understand and appreciate it, all the words, all the description, all the information will come. But it's only because I need to describe it to you. So when I'm walking through your ancestry, for example, or if I'm walking through, your time and space, because that's what I do all the time, and I'm telling you about something, I just know it. But then because I'm telling you, that's where I'll get the story. I'll get some information. It will be like, oh, this gentleman was here doing this, and this person was here doing that, and it's in this time frame, and this is the story around it. That's not how it comes to me, though. It comes to me that way so I can communicate it to you. So Midnight Moonstone, no idea. It just literally just was.
And it's literally the same. It's the same exact, like if I got it right now and held it, it's the same size, the same everything. It's just.
So that's where I trust, right? So I've moved beyond the need to question or to say like why. Like I don't ask. I literally don't ask. Like things come to me all the time. The questions that I ask are this mine? Is this mine? And if not, whose is it? I most generally don't get the answer to that. Unless it's not anybody's and I just need to land the energy for someone, I'll unearth that I don't know, which I'll do. I have no problem with that. But if it's mine, I'll then work with it and do some things with it. If it's one of my clients, it will be revealed, and I won't know when it will be revealed, but it will be revealed. And I'm patient, and it will come up to me right at the exact time that it needs to.
I will say this too. So Kim and I had something happen a month and a half ago, and I was very reactive because I don't like disappointing people, but I really don't want to disappoint, Kim, right? So I I became very reactive. And because I was reactive, everything got all screwed up, right? Like the communication got screwed up and all of this stuff. And then we had a phone call and you were so kind and loving and you were like, you need to be responsive, not reactive. And that has been like emblazoned in my memory. So anytime something happens now, I respond. Like I pause. I take that pause. And I didn't do that before. So
I love that. So this is the thing. Like when you work with me, I'm going to give you the tools that you need that are going to be most impactful for you. So they'll come at the exact right time in the way that you can hear it. I don't explain that in that way to other people, but that's the Iris way that it needed to be explained. So I am super lucky that not only will, things like Midnight Moonstone come to me, but also too, what would be the exact right way? If my objective is for Iris or client X to be able to hear this, what is the exact right way that I can explain it with the right analogy or story or example or words? And I'm so lucky that comes to me.
Yeah. And so are we as your clients, right? Because, it can be triggering if you. So I had like really bad bosses. That's one of the main reasons that I, started my own business, because it was like, I don't want to work for anybody anymore. I had a lot of assholes for bosses and they were just mean. Like Taylor Swift's song, why I have to be so mean? Yeah, why do you have to be so, like, these people took pleasure in being, mean. And so I used to be really reactive to any kind of criticism, or whether it was constructive or not, right? And like even Heather would say something and I would like jump down her throat and she's like, I'm not so-and-so. Excuse me. And I'm like, I know. So when you said that, it was funny because my usual response would be like, what do you mean I'm being reactive? Duh, like that right there, And so
which I adore.
right. And so the irony was not lost on me for that. But when I stopped, it was like, oh, because then I looked at all of the steps that I took that were completely unnecessary if I would have just read and not just been like, blah, So, so that's helped a lot. I mean, working with you is just like, it's a godsend. It really is.
Thank you.
It's true.
And you said yes, which you said yes to yourself, which is huge.
Well, yeah, but it was funny because the very first time we met, it was I'll never forget that. I was just like, what? Because we talked and it was like a what thing. And then we talked again and it was like everything just changed. It was like, oh, hell yes. How do we do this? Like, how do we figure this out? Because this like has to happen. And I remember getting off the call and I was like, what the hell switched?
So I mean, I can answer that question if you actually want. If that's a rhetorical question, I don't have to answer it.
No, go ahead.
So what ends up happening is that I'm speaking to your soul. That's my connection. So this is where, you were saying earlier, how do we get people to not, understand and appreciate both religion and spirituality or understand astrology or something like that. I'm not an awakener. I'm not going to be the first person that you meet that's like, oh, I don't have a clue about anything. I don't believe in anything like this. And therefore I'm going to say yes to this person. It's not going to be me, because I am going to be transformative. So I'm not just going to give you like, oh, this is a really cute little thing and off we go, and that's great for your mind. I am literally talking to your heart and soul. So what ends up happening is I don't have a massive number of people. If I speak to 120 people in a room, I don't have 40 people that say, oh my God, I want to start doing something. I've got 40 people that could be really interested. Well, actually I have 120 people that are interested. That's a whole different story. But I'll have a handful of people. And that's my intention. So my intention is who's ready to say yes to themselves in very deep ways. And so I'm speaking to you from an energetic perspective. And so when I walk into a scenario, I'll say, like, what did I do for Fun Friends? There are 4 people here. I don't know who they are.
Yep.
Well, it revealed to me who those 4 people are. I'm still having conversations with them. This isn't like I met you on a Tuesday and you're going to work with me on Wednesday. That's just not the way this works, because your soul, your heart is super patient and your soul is really, really patient. Your mind is like, blah, 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 right? So you're rationalizing, you're telling stories, and all the things happen in your mind is like keeping you whatever. Sometimes the mind is aligned and the mind's like, yes, I must do this right now. That happens, but it's rare. So most of the times it's like, I don't know why, and I don't know what's happening. And if you don't talk yourself out of it, your soul then gets to go into the driver's seat. And so the soul, again, being very patient, is going to lay the foundation. Yes, you are available for a call. You have a conversation. Your mind's kind of like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. But then whatever, if you're still saying yes from a soul level, your soul then comes in and lays out that next opportunity. And so then it's like, ooh, wait a minute. So I'm speaking to your soul, Iris. If you're listening to your soul at all, then you'll come in some way, shape, or form. And you could come in to take the quiz. You could come in to listen to the podcast. You could listen to the weekly forecast. You could buy a deck of oracle cards. This isn't a big, huge ticket item. There's so many things and ways to connect with me and connect with you're really connecting with yourself when you connect with me. That's my goal. I want to make you more of you. That's really, I want to help you live to your full potential, align with your soul mission, however you want to say that. They're all the same thing. But when you're saying yes to yourself fully, that's when you'll come back. And then that's when you'll say yes in a bigger way. And that's when you'll say, gee, this really fits in with my coaching, or it doesn't. Gee, I want to do this. Wow, I'm going to get major transformation, because you will transform. You will 10x your business. You will change your entire client profile. Most likely you'll change, how you do your work. And it's not necessarily, we're not changing your offerings all the time. We're not changing your whole Rolodex. What we're changing is how you show up for yourself. You will show up in different ways.
So what made you know that we were going to work together?
I don't know, Iris. I just knew. Like literally, so this is where I didn't finish the sentence. Like when I was back in like 2017, 2018, this is literally what I would say to my clients. They'd be like, how do you know? I'm like, I don't know. I just knew. Like literally, it's like, like I had no idea. So that's what ends up happening. So how do I know? Because I'm listening to my intuition constantly. I'm constantly channeling. I'm constantly connected to my intuition. I let my intuition drive with my intellect. This is the thing. The mind doesn't go away. They're symbiotic and they just work together beautifully. So when I met you, I'm like, oh, she's going to be a client. Oh, interesting. I wonder when. Like literally, that's it. Like I just wonder when. That was the only thing. It was just a matter of when.
That just makes me laugh so much. So we're over an hour. See, this goes so damn fast. I knew with you it was going to go like fast. We could talk like 5 hours. So where can people find you? Mm-hmm. I know, but tell them.
Yeah. So, okay. KimWoods.com is my website. Kim Woods channel is my Insta and Facebook, and it's Kim E. Woods, which isn't awesome on LinkedIn, but you can't really change that. But if you, and you're like, okay, great. So that's your social platforms. Who cares? If you want to listen and just like, if my voice is something that you're like, oh, okay, that might be interesting. Or, gee, I really love the moon. I get the sun a little bit. I would like to know more. Podcast is the perfect place to go. It's at your star path to success. It's everywhere on every single platform. Or if you're on the website, just go into podcast and you can just listen to it on your favorite player. I do literally weekly forecasts in only 5 minutes. And then I do longer episodes so you can get a little glimpse if you want. That's a really good way. If you're wondering what Iris and I were talking about, you and I were talking about loving alchemist, intuitive visionary, are you entering the world through your mind? Are you entering the world through your heart and your connections? Or you're entering the world through action and your will? Take the 12-question quiz at your star map to success. You'll get your result. And then I do the weekly forecast, the monthly forecast. I do all those types of things on that. I have a high-end program. I have one-on-one. You can come in as much as you want to come in, but I am a lot of different places and I do a lot of value add. That's one thing I get really great feedback on is my messaging is all value add. My monthly newsletter, I give a free gift every single month, because I just want you to be more of you. That's my goal.
Yeah. You're so awesome.
Thank you.
No, thank you for taking time out of your, I know, insanely busy day. This was a lot of time. The last question I ask all my guests is, what lights your fire?
Magic. So, and what do I mean by that? So magic, you know what it is? It's having the faith to know that something that I have no idea about is going to come to fruition. And I get to be surprised and delighted about that today. So today, when we're recording, it happens to be a Monday. I have met 3 people today that are going to be massively amazing opportunity creators for me. And I didn't even know that was what today was going to be all about. So I am thrilled beyond imagining for that. And it's magic. It's magic.
Love it. And I love magic. So that's don't go anywhere. I'm going to say goodbye to the audience. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Everybody, thank you so much. I hope that this brought you value. I hope get hold of Kim. I am telling you, she will change your life. I can't tell you what she's done for me. I mean, I've told you a little bit, but she has just changed so many things in my life. And I know that she'll do the same for you. So thank you all for hanging out an hour plus again. Please go like, share, leave a review, leave in the notes. Like, what have you gotten out of this? Like, what spoke to you in this episode? I'd love to know. And for now, I'm going to sign off. Until next time, go out, find what lights your fire. See y'all.